Welcome or welcome back to Afropia and Monica. I thought this would be a nice environment to record the video that I want to record. I want to talk about mixed race identity, and it can be so polarizing sometimes. Not my videos, I don't think my videos are ever that, but I just wanted to be in a nice atmosphere to talk about this, right? I've been thinking about this a little bit more lately. I don't usually think about it much, even though I speak about it on my channel every now and again, but it's not something that's with me like on a daily basis. But I've been going to events centered around mixed race identity.
I almost describe it a bit like an onion, and I'd love to know from both of you, if we were to peel some of those layers, what would you say are the most common different sides that you have?
I can maybe start. As a Ghanaian, as a Filipino, I was born in Virginia, and then I spent most of my adult life here in London. I feel like there's so many different parts of me. All of these different places have kind of made me who I am today.
A lot of soul-searching, a lot of unraveling of identity. And I refer back to one interview we did where our guest actually asked us, how do you identify? And we were sort of taken aback at the time because we had never been asked that question before. And I think that when we started this kind of investigation into the mixed experience, nobody was really asking that question of mixed people. And something that we found quite often is that people have an idea of who you are and they'll voice that idea onto you. That seems to be a recurring theme that we found in talking to people about the mixed experience. And so for me, I've got to a place where it's not easy for me to encapsulate who I am quickly in an answer to you. It definitely is an onion. It's definitely very layered.
I think especially growing up in the US, I think especially living the majority of my adult life here in the UK, I think people specifically, when they hear the term mixed, they think specifically someone who is like mixed Caribbean and white. The black and white mix seems to be the predominant idea of what comes to mind.
You have to have a certain level of series. And it'll never be that. So I didn't get a whole lot of melanin. The way I have identified has definitely shifted throughout my life, depending on context. I grew up in a predominantly white, working class town. I was the only brown kid in my class, so in that context I was considered black. And then I had this long career on the internet. I've been a creator for 10 years, and online I think I was perceived more so as white. So it's been an interesting journey of learning not to pay too much attention of how I'm perceived and just reconciling how I perceive myself, and not letting that force me into assimilation depending on the context that I'm in. And now I'm much more comfortable in my wholeness, in not splitting myself in half down the middle. And yeah, pretty happy to say that. How about you?
So my dad is black, he's from Jamaica. My mum is white British. I identify as mixed race, kind of, I guess, racially, but weird. I get asked where I'm from, what I am, like all the time, like way more than you'd expect in 2025. And people will just guess. They'll be like, you Brazilian. You Arabic. Yeah. Like, whatever you want me to be, baby. But yeah, no, I identify as mixed race or black, depending on how far it's going to
The what question is way, rather than where are you from, what are you, feels quite specific.
Yeah.
First of all, I just wanted to say that it's very clear that this conversation is not going anywhere. It is here to stay. Whether you like it or not, different people have different preferences. Some people don't like to talk about it, some do. But whatever the case may be with you, like, this conversation is here to stay. You might have heard slogans like, the future is mixed race. Reports say, I don't have any statistics here, but reportedly the mixed race group is the fastest growing ethnic group in some places, at least. Anyway, let me move on from that because I don't have the numbers here, so I don't want to just throw claims into the air like that. Let me just say this. I don't really like the word mixed race that much. I use it because it is widely understood for what it is, But I prefer terms like mixed heritage. Mixed race is a very superficial term, I would say. Again, I use it because, being mixed race comes with a very specific experience where people just by looking at you, they try to guess where you're from. The way they ask questions, sometimes it's just not appropriate. But anyway, the whole point is this conversation is here to stay. And while I don't personally love the word mixed race or the term, I do use it because it does describe what I'm talking about, right? Again, I wish we didn't have to describe people by their skin, by their race. I don't think that's the best way to describe an individual, but the world that we live in is as it is. So yes, I'm glad that this conversation is being had because there is a lot of ignorance out there, and mixed race people need to have this opportunity to be understood, not to have their identity imposed on them. I mean, the identity of the society, whatever the society believes they should identify as, that should not be imposed on them. We should be the ones making the rules, not even making the rules, but just letting people know who we are because we know best. When I say we, obviously I am a Polish Nigerian. I come from mixed heritage. I am mixed race. Afropean Monica stands for African and European combined. The term Afropean lends itself to this mixed race conversation very well when it comes to specifically black and white biracial, which is a smaller group of people within the mixed race community. Still, the majority of conversations within the community are probably centered around black and white biracials, right? So mixed race is a bigger community within which you can find black and white biracials. So I'm happy that this conversation is being had. I think it's an important conversation, especially when it is being had in a way that's respectful and constructive and educational. I think it's great. It's been a while since I spoke about the mixed race identity on this channel, mostly because it's only a part of the Afropean Monica channel concept, right? I probably would want to talk about it a little bit more than I do, but the problem that I have is that when I do, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, this conversation becomes very polarizing, and not because I intentionally make it so. I don't think I do that at all. Mostly I just share my experiences. I don't usually come here and talk about, oh, this should be this way, this should be that way. No, I just share my experience, right? And yet some people still find a way to turn it into something negative. I'm not trying to have negative conversations on this channel. I'm not trying to be polarizing. I don't want drama. That's not what this channel is about. It's about conversations. It's about cultural exploration. So yes, that's the reason why I don't talk about the mixed race identity as much as I would like to maybe, but I do still talk about it sometimes. What I really liked is at both events, there were not just mixed race people there. There were a few white people there that I saw, and black, and they asked questions, which was great. Especially the first event, people from different ethnic groups were asking questions and receiving answers, right? Not just asking questions and then waiting for an opportunity to speak, to impose their idea of what mixed race is. They were asking questions and they were open to receive the answers. They genuinely wanted to learn and were curious, or at least it seemed like they were, which I think is the way forward, to be honest, when it comes to these conversations. I feel like if we were willing to listen to each other, we would not need to have as many of these conversations, which, to be honest, while I do appreciate that these conversations are being had in different spaces, offline, online, etc., I also feel like it's just not that deep, And at some point, we should come to a place where we don't have to have them anymore. We are not there yet, that's for sure. There's a lot of ignorance out there. So it is good that these conversations are being had, especially in a polite, respectful manner, like I just described, which unfortunately doesn't always happen on the internet. I wish some of that respectful communication could be carried onto these internet streets, right? I also want to take a moment to speak to specifically this 50-50 African-European experience. If you've watched this channel long enough, you know that I was born and I grew up in Poland. I did a video about that. I did a little bit of adulting in Poland, not much because I came to London over 20 years ago. London is a great hub for all things culture. You can find people from all over the world here, from all ethnic groups. And that's the beauty of London. That's what I fell in love with initially. Being mixed race, London made me feel a lot more, what's the word? Poland is just almost 100% Caucasian. So you stand out. When you look like me, you stand out. Here in London, yes, people still ask when you are in a conversation or anything like that, but a random passerby is probably not going to stop you and ask you where you're from, where are your parents from, like, you speak Polish so well, you know, you won't hear stuff like that most likely here. Not at this superficial level where you don't know the person at all, they don't even know your name, and yet they think they can ask you questions. So yes, London is great. There was Poland, there was London, but also finally this year I was able to visit Nigeria for the very first time, which is my other home country, especially now that I've gotten my Nigerian citizenship, right? My father is Nigerian. So I say all this to say that if you are mixed race, black and white biracial like me, who grew up in a predominantly Caucasian country or just a Eurocentric environment, I really recommend going to Africa. Go to visit, go to see the place you're from. If you can't go specifically to your African country of origin, go to Africa in general. I've been going to Ghana as well for the past 3 years. Just going to Africa was a good experience, even though Africa is a continent and there are many differences between the different countries, but there are also many similarities, right, within those regions. So yes, Ghana was my first stop. And then finally Nigeria. Ghana was good, Nigeria was the missing link. When I went to Nigeria, it was a full circle moment. And I recommend that. I think it helps you become slightly more settled in who you are. I'm still processing and I still don't know what is next, where I'm going from here. I feel like my journey with Nigeria has just begun, you know, and it has just begun. But what I'm saying is I don't think it's the end. Like, I was there for 2 weeks. I think I'll go back and I think there is more for me to explore there. You know, I grew up in Poland, know the language, know the people. My formative years were spent in Poland. Then I came to London, people from all over the world, mixed people, different ethnicities. You can pick and choose the community that you want to learn more about. Even if you don't fully belong, you can still learn a lot about the people in London. And then Africa. I'm really curious to see what the future holds when it comes to Africa specifically. I'm not saying that you have to go back to Africa to understand who you are or to become who you are meant to be. I am not saying that. But for some of you, this might be important. It might be an important step on your journey to self-discovery and even on your journey to understanding yourself as a mixed race person. That's how I tried to look for the balance when I came to London, because my initial years were spent in a completely Caucasian environment. So I guess I went all the way to the other extreme when I came to London, and I tried to find myself within the African communities. But yes, at the same time, I was mixing with mixed race people as well, and just people from all over, you know. To be honest with you, I like to explore the mixed race themes and all that. It's personal, of course, because that's what I am. But at the same time, when I'm choosing friends, I don't go by the color of their skin. I think it's just way too shallow and narrow. If there's a connection, there is a connection, and it doesn't matter what color you are. Where am I going with this? Yes, so I recommend that you go to Africa if you can. If you can't, or you don't think it's that important, I do recommend that you read about your country of origin or go to events, right? Mixed race events, absolutely. I think they are important for the mixed race community. It's really great to be in a community that can understand where you come from and who you are. If this helps, attend mixed race events, read mixed race books, mix with mixed race people. But at the same time, I suggest that if you, like me, grew up in a Caucasian or have only been exposed to a Caucasian environment and people, yes, go to Africa or read African books, specifically from the country of your origin. Explore that, learn a little bit more about your heritage. It just adds beauty and color to this whole experience, right? So I just wanted to say this, and what else? As I said before, this mixed race conversation is here to stay. Mixed race is a thing. If you are not part of this conversation yet, but you are curious about it, go ahead and join, whether you're mixed race or not. But respect the people who share those stories. Understand that mixed race experiences are unique. Even individual mixed race experiences are unique. So my experience may be very different to another person who comes from even the same background, being Polish Nigerian. So let's listen, let's have respectful conversations, I would say, and let's continue having these conversations, because mixed race identity is a thing. For me, that's definitely not the most important one out of all my identities, right? I am Polish, I am Nigerian, I am a woman, I am other things. But it's there, it's a thing. It's not something to be ignored and misunderstood. The mixed race conversation is here, it is going to stay. We may as well learn how to communicate, how to talk about this, so that it's not stressful and polarizing and scary. It shouldn't be a scary conversation. It should be a conversation that's had in a way that builds everyone and educates and enhances our relationships. And does that really. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to stay connected beyond YouTube, join the Afropean Monica email list.